You know, I believe that anyone can make a positive difference in the world, great and small. I see it every day. And you don't have to be a celebrity or billionaire to do it. All you really need is the desire to use your unique gifts, talents, and passions, and then to simply begin. Hi, I'm Linda Mackie, and welcome to The Eloquent Entrepreneur, a place where I have conversations with everyday changemakers just like you. Join us and hear inspiring stories, hard-won wisdom, and discover practical tools to help you accelerate your impact. So whatever you're doing right now, listen in and prepare to be inspired. Yeah, so you went back to your yoga studio today?
Yeah, they've reopened in a brand new space, so it feels very brand new and fresh and pretty. Yes.
Awesome. Is it close to your house?
It's downtown, but yeah, it's an easy bike ride.
Yeah. Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Shannon. This is The Eloquent Entrepreneur. It's been a long time coming, and I'm so happy you're finally on the show. We're just going to get right into it, I think.
Sounds great.
This is a whole new year, and I'm super excited because, as you know, it's now a podcast as well. So we're doing the video interviews still and the podcast. So that's super exciting for me. I'm really happy about that. And so excited to have you on the show. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and all that stuff.
Yes. Well, first off, Linda, thank you so much for having me. It's been just such a fun experience getting my photos done with you. And now to be on your show is just so much fun. Thank you.
Oh, well, great to have you.
Yeah. So to introduce myself, my name's Shannon Marshall. I'm the owner of Centrepiece Writing Studio here in Victoria, BC. Yeah, I'm a writer. I write special occasion speeches to support people who may be looking for a little bit of help preparing for, say, a wedding toast, or maybe they've got to deliver a eulogy or a reflection at a celebration of life. These big moments in our lives often call for us to do a bit of public speaking. And unless we are doing that often, and many of us aren't, it could take a little practice. It could take a little preparation to feel like you're really confident in that moment. And so that's where I come in. I help people prepare their notes. I can either walk them through their process, or I can provide their notes for them. We make sure they're tailored for the big day, and give a safe space to practice as well, so that everyone's name is pronounced properly. We're not leaving anyone out. We're getting the timing down.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's a big challenge for the best of us. I know for me, I had to do a little speech from when my dad passed away, and it was not
Right.
easy. So to have
No,
somebody like yourself to help with that, because we're not all like, orators, or,
no. And especially when we're grieving or we're in the excitement of a wedding, there's a lot of big emotions, and preparing isn't necessarily top of the agenda. So I just help take the load off a little bit.
Yeah. So tell us, how did you get started as a writer and doing this type of writing? Because it's when we
Right.
think of a writer, we think of authors, and we think of
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been a writer since kind of forever, you know. I have a little medal from grade 1 and winning my like creative writing medal in
Yeah.
my first year. But
That's awesome.
yeah, when I went to university, I studied creative writing as well as professional writing, and on graduating, got a job in a traditional communications shop. So I was writing a lot of news releases, speeches, event plans, and, you know, the full gamut, opinion editorials, things like that. And then later progressed into more of a consulting role where I was maybe delivering communications advice to senior leadership on how to better connect with employees through the layers of hierarchy in the public service, delivering packages on mental health resources and things, all of these like important things at work. But where my own entrepreneurial sort of start came was when I was helping a friend whose father had passed away. She lives in the Okanagan. It was pre-COVID, but he had passed in the spring and had a lot of family coming in from the US. So they waited to have the memorial until the summer. She's got 2 young, energetic kids, and I didn't know it at the time, but she was in the process of selling her house and buying a new one. And I just reached out to her and I said, you know, Sarah, do you need a hand? And it was perfect timing. She'd written some notes, but she didn't know where to go with them. So
yeah. How long ago was this? A couple of years ago? Or?
A couple of years. It was pre-COVID. Yeah. So I'm going to say 2019, 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, she emailed me her handwritten notes. She took photos and I could see a theme right away. So we did a little bit of back and forth. The speech came together really well. And then when the time came, I was able to actually travel to the Okanagan to attend the service. And, you know, there were so many more people there than anyone was expecting. There was a room probably full of about 200, 300 people. But she was ready, you know, she's done a few speeches, but again, like most of us, it's not her profession. She doesn't do it for a living. She does it once in a while. So she was nervous, but, you know, she had what she needed. She got up there, she aced it. People were laughing in all the right spots. You know, it was sad and poignant in other spots, and that really came through. And what we realized afterwards was that in addition to being able to speak, that process allowed her to actually unlock some grief that she'd been sort of keeping at bay because she's been so busy and because there was a delay between when her father passed and when the service was. You know, I think we all have that tendency to just keep things down so that we can keep on keeping on, and being able to speak those words really opened things up for her and allowed her to start moving on, which was a nice effect that we didn't really anticipate necessarily. But
exactly. Yeah, no, I think that's so true, because I remember, I mean, everything was happening at once, like when my dad passed away in 2013, and there was so much going on with work, and then, you know, we were kind of, you know, thrown, like all the stuff was thrown at us, like all the financial stuff. We had to sell my dad's place, and then, you know, putting together the celebration of life, and then having to write, you know, and we do compartmentalize a lot of this stuff and internalize it too. Like you said, we push it down. And so I think what you are offering, and you obviously came to realize after this experience, that, you know, we really need to connect with our feelings. You know, and what did you say? What did you say that she had to really kind of reconnect with?
Yeah, I think
going through amidst all the chaos, I guess.
Exactly. Like, I mean, and that's a normal coping mechanism. You said it yourself, we're compartmentalizing. And there's on top of that grief, there's so many decisions to make and so many activities to undertake. And you've probably got family coming in under normal circumstances, not necessarily in COVID times as big, but our natural tendency is to come together when we're grieving. And and that's a comfort, but it also means, okay, where are people going to stay? Are they staying in your house? Do you have to cook them breakfast? Like, it takes you out of your routine, and it adds maybe a little bit more responsibility than you would normally have.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, this is all about, how we make a difference in the world, and every little
Right.
bit counts. And like, so when you had this experience with your friend, did you, like, I mean, did you have some kind of revelation? Like, oh my gosh, I can really help people here.
That
Um,
is
yeah,
exactly like it was through that process that I realized, wow, like this is something that is not being offered to my
yeah,
knowledge. And the more,
yeah.
I
I
mean,
wish I had you then.
I've been reaching out to funeral homes all over the province, and no one has said yes, this person is doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
So
no, that's amazing.
yeah, I realized, and the more people I spoke with, the more people said, wow, I have my own experience dealing with grief or saying goodbye, even before they passed. We knew that my family member was going to pass. She was in ill health. We had an opportunity to say goodbye while she was still here. Wouldn't it have been wonderful if I'd had a little help or a sounding board to
Yeah.
just help make sure that that speech is polished? And
Well, yeah, and be able to tell that person in the right words, because a lot of us don't know, and that's a big part of, as you know, what I am interested in is self-expression. So a lot of
yeah,
us don't know how to express ourselves. We're not used to being on camera. We're not used to having the spotlight. Maybe we're shy. Like I used to be very shy at parties.
yes,
And even like just Zoom meetings or whatever, like I'll often be the timid, but it doesn't mean I don't have a lot to say. And so I think that having that opportunity to have somebody like yourself come in and help them through the process of connecting with how they feel and what they want to say and express to that person, you know, while they're still alive, and then of course at their
afterwards.
celebration of
We don't
afterwards.
always have that opportunity,
Yeah,
but yes,
yeah,
it takes practice to get in touch and really express outwardly our feelings. It's not necessarily, it doesn't always necessarily feel safe depending on
yeah,
our history, and that
exactly.
can bring up some confidence issues. So
For
uh,
sure, yeah. And it doesn't
yeah,
just apply to, obviously you write, help people write things for all sorts of things like celebrations
exactly.
and
Yeah.
birthdays and I don't know, what do you call it?
Anniversaries,
Anniversaries and yeah,
we live in a government town where there's a lot of public servants, and we know that with the baby boomers retiring, we've got a lot of retirements and
retirement
celebrations of
and yeah,
careers coming up.
promotions probably and yeah, I mean
Promotions,
the sky's the
yes,
limit. I know we're talking about working together because I think you could help a lot of my clients with their websites and their
yes,
copy and a lot of people aren't writers like I'm better talk I mean I think I'm a good writer, but I think I speak better than I write. I express myself better when I speak
right,
verbally.
yes,
So
yes,
I need help trying to figure out how to communicate and express myself on my website through the
it's a
text. And oh, it's a big endeavor, I think, for a lot of us. So
it's different when you're taking it in by ear, so a speech we're
yeah,
going to hear it versus reading it. And so
yeah,
yeah, I'm definitely a better writer than a speaker, but
yeah,
having done enough speaking in my day, I've realized like, wow, okay, I can help here.
yeah. So
So
actually, just to touch on this, so I know. Okay, well, before your photo shoot we did together, you attended the Stepping into Your Essence
yeah,
retreat, and I know that had a big impact on you because I knew that you were a better writer than you were a speaker.
right.
A little bit. I didn't know you all that well at that point, but and I really saw a huge transformation in you. And since then, you've been showing up more on video and speaking. And I'd love to know how that experience has impacted you personally and your business, and how has it
Yeah,
shown up in your
yes.
business? And then I have another question after that.
Sure. Well, I think honestly, the Stepping into Your Essence retreat, I knew I wanted to attend after I read. I'd already met you, Linda, and I knew I wanted to spend more time with you. But then I read more about Brett McDonald and Amy Leah Tamburini and what they were offering. And I thought, like, wow, I want to be in the same room as these women.
Yeah.
And, I think, yeah, as a new business owner, it was really useful for me to be there surrounded by other women who are obviously winning in their businesses. And just to really, it was a day of like self-exploration and reflection, but also some play to like kind of keep it light and keep it balanced, I would say. But yeah, just the experience of that small group of women together really did have a powerful effect on me. In terms of inspiration, in terms of finding that my own sense of personal safety in a group, and realizing that I do have a voice, and that voice is being heard, and that voice is welcomed, was really critical, especially at the moment that I was at in my own process. Yeah.
Cool. And that's kind of, is that what you envisioned that you would get out of the workshop or the retreat? Or what did you like? What
honestly, I think it was more than what I was expecting. My main reason for going was, I thought it would help us connect as my service provider. You're doing something that's very personal and takes a lot of understanding of your client. And I thought, well, this is a great way for us to get to know each other in advance of the photo shoot.
Yeah.
And that was also the case.
Yeah, it was.
When I arrived for my photo shoot, we already knew each other and we were able to hit the ground running.
Yeah. I didn't realize how much of an impact it would be to have me there. And I'm going to continue to participate in the retreats from now on, especially with clients that have booked with me, for sure.
I thought that made a big difference too.
Yeah.
How my photos turned out. My comfort level was so much higher on the day of the photo shoot because I felt like we knew each other and we already had worked out our communication and like our rapport.
Well, I love that you said that you really, like, you knew you had a voice, but this kind of confirmed it, that, you know what, you have a voice. I know you expressed that in the pre-material that you provided to me. I'm just trying to find it somewhere. But yeah, you said sometimes we have to find our voice first, but before we realize we have something to say.
Yes.
And
that's
that
so
I love.
essential.
Yeah. And that's how we change the world, is what you said.
It is. I think so. And I've spoken with a lot of women, and it's not a problem exclusive to women. I think there are lots of men out there who struggle to be heard. But I think the women that I've spoken with, a lot of them have also discovered their voice, or they're in the process of discovering their voice. And you can tell that they're becoming more confident in their ability to create the change that they want to see in the world. Exactly, and that's inspiring.
Yeah. And that's the sole reason I'm doing this, is because I've been on the journey of self-expression and self-acceptance, finding my own voice. And I feel like I know what my voice is, but it's a process, right? Of how to get it out there, right?
It's always evolving too.
It's always evolving. Yeah. But the more we do it, like the more I do these interviews, for example, the more confident I am at speaking. And I love having conversations, and I love hearing about like everyone's stories and how they're running their businesses, how they're making an impact. And, ultimately, obviously it sounds like you really enjoy what you do. And that first experience with your friend sparked something in you that you knew that you enjoyed doing and you felt good about doing. And that is a lot of times the key to, making a difference in the world. You can't hate it. You have to love it.
No, right? You have to love it.
You have to be passionate about it. So, where is that other question? Yeah. So, obviously this is more than a do good project. And it's not a project, it's your life's work. So like, how do you see yourself? I mean, we can kind of have an idea, but from you personally, like your perspective, like how do you feel what you do is making an impact in the world and for your clients?
Well, to a certain extent, I think writing is a lot like photography. I'm painting a picture with words.
Yeah.
And when we get into those human stories, I mean, whether we're celebrating a life well lived, or we're creating a professional cover letter, or we're creating a bio for a website, those all help us see ourselves a little bit differently. And whether that's sort of how we want to see ourselves, a best version of ourselves that now we have something to aim for, or whether it's maybe the writer or the photographer seeing something that the individual doesn't even necessarily see themselves, that can be a game changer as well in terms of seeing ourselves, because really how we process our own internal experience is what we bring out into the world, right? And so from a writing point of view, if I'm able to help instill a little bit of confidence, I think that can really only help. And if it can help spread joy and love, well, even better.
Yeah, exactly. And it's probably, I mean, a huge form of self-discovery, inspiration, and sometimes revelation. Sometimes like even if you journal, sometimes you can really uncover a lot of, I mean, it's a very powerful tool. So, just the power of writing and expressing yourself that way, without it, maybe you wouldn't be doing that do good project or making a difference, So that's amazing. And I see that as, a huge way to express ourselves. Because if we didn't, then nobody would know what we're doing, all that kind of stuff. So in terms of like, I just want to go back to your friend, because I'd love to know kind of, what does the process look like when you work with a client? How do you help her connect with those feelings and then come up with the speech or the writing that goes with it?
In the case of my friend, it was, like I said, it was really interesting timing. She'd already sat down and she'd written out a bunch of notes just by hand. And so I didn't really need to coax anything out of her. It was funny because I didn't really know where she was going to be at when I made that offer. And I made a long list of questions in terms of like, where could we start? So I was really ready to start with her at a much earlier process than where she actually needed to start. She was already really connected in with her feelings, and that's great. Where she needed help was like bringing it together, because obviously it can't just be like that. It's got to have some structure. You want to have an introduction. You want your stories to fit within the right amount of time. And then you're going to wrap up with a little bit of an impact to leave your audience with. And that's where I was really able to add some theme and some structure where it didn't exist before. But I recently wrote a personal bio for an individual who'd been nominated to the Auto Racing Hall of Fame, which was a topic that I didn't know anything about. It was really cool. And we started right from the beginning. He lived in town, and it was safe for us to meet for coffee. So we met for about 90 minutes. I got to know what he was all about, a little bit about his history, obviously his involvement in auto racing. And we talked through what his his background, a lot of that didn't make it into the final version, but it helps inform me. It helps me get a bigger picture of who this person is, so that I can then weave all those details together and offer
well,
a
that takes
profile
a real gift, which brings me to your and I know, I mean, you talk about a lot of the people that you've worked with. You've worked with astronauts for the Canadian Space Agency. You've done
Yes.
speeches for cabinet ministers, press releases, briefing notes, opinion editorials. I mean, you've had so much experience. And I know you've told the story of how you got started. What do you feel like now that you've been doing this for a while? Like, what do you feel is your greatest gift that really makes this successful for you and your clients?
Right. Well, I think, we talk about communication a lot, and I do a lot of output in the communication department. That's what writing is. It's an output. But I actually think the most important part of communication is the listening.
Yeah.
And my strength, I would say even a little bit more broadly, is my empathy. I'm really able to ask the questions that get us into where we need to be fairly quickly. But beyond that, I think I have an understanding that goes a little bit beyond what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing. Being in the same room or being even connected across screens. Not everyone has the language or the eloquence to express themselves clearly. That's why they're coming to me.
Yeah.
But I can pick up on what they're trying to say. I can pick up on intentions and
body language.
Fill in a lot of blanks.
Yeah.
I don't always get it right. There's still that back and forth communication. I always like to say writing is collaborative.
We sound so much alike, but I'm in visuals and you're in writing.
we couldn't possibly nail it on the first try after 90 minutes, but with some back and forth, we can get into range. And
well, you sound like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're a highly sensitive creative. I think because most highly sensitive people are very empathic. They can sense a person's heart and intentions, and we pick up on the subtle things. And I think that's what I attribute is my greatest gift as a photographer, is my highly sensitive nature, because I can really have the compassion and empathy and pick up on the subtle facial expressions or body language and the things my clients tell me. And, it sounds like it's a very similar thing for you, which is critical, because you bring out maybe stuff that they would never have thought of.
Exactly. Yes.
Bring into the story.
And I can connect dots in a way that I'm 40 years into life, and I'm just realizing now, like, oh, I see the world a little differently than everyone else.
But it's a good feeling when you realize, or you come to that revelation of like, wow, you know what I'm doing brings me so much joy, and I'm so connected to it, and it's actually helping people. Like, that's really the cool part of this whole thing, and having, like, you talk about intuition and seeing all the details that maybe are hidden from most of us,
Yeah, it's sort of like, I mean, when you pick up a rock and there's all of this life underneath it, you would never have guessed. I think, like, each one of us has that complexity to us, and it's just begging to be witnessed.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it is such a gift. And so in terms of your I mean, we talked about kind of the inciting incident, if you want to call it like that, what got you going. But what
Right.
was the, I mean, you talked about your story, your inspiration behind the work. Um, can you touch on that a little bit more? Like just in terms of, yeah, like what was
Mm.
the big driving force? I know you talk about customer service.
Right. Yes.
Um,
Client service. I
client service.
love client service. And it's a funny thing when you're progressing through your career. I think there's sort of a tendency as you're moving up the ladder, you get further and further away from your client if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And I realized at some point that that was the case. I was like a little too far removed from my client.
Mm,
And you know, with the expertise that I have, I wanted to deliver a higher quality of service than was maybe being expected of me when I was working for an employer. And
yeah.
so, yeah, coming back to Centrepiece Writing Studio allowed me that opportunity to work one-on-one again with the client. And it allowed me to set my own service standards. And they're high.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
good service. I love to get good service.
Yeah.
Restaurants, spas,
Yeah.
hotels. Yeah, treat me
Yeah.
right. And but I also like to deliver good service.
Yeah. Well, and that's where, values come into play.
Yeah,
We all have certain values that we hold high, and I think when you're an entrepreneur, those couldn't be more important.
yes,
Um, so your value of, um, high clients, so you want to give your clients an amazing experience and service,
exactly. Yes,
and you want to obviously help them connect with their,
we want everything to be pretty.
yeah,
We
exactly.
add a little aesthetic to the writing. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we're gonna go
So,
there.
in terms of your, I mean, yeah, I think do you see yourself in there, like in terms of wanting people to, like you're expressing yourself. You see
Exactly.
yourself in that whole kind of like, is it part of your journey as a business owner? Like I'm on my journey to express myself, and this is what I'm helping my clients with, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a huge journey. Yes. I mean, the self-expression is one element of the journey. The even just the small business ownership is part of the journey that I never really even saw myself on until very recently, until I got this idea. Um,
Yes.
but it's not like I wasn't selling lemonade when I was 5, and everyone said, "Oh, Shannon, she's going to be an entrepreneur. It's obvious."
Yeah. Yeah. So
So it's been a huge learning in terms of realizing just how much control over this business I have, and how much of an ability I have to shape it and make it my own, which is
yeah.
amazing.
So was there something in particular that happened that made you realize like, wow, I'm actually a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I am changing lives. I am making a difference here. And I can make a living at this.
Goodness, yes. I think those first paychecks are really what takes it from being a hobby to being a living. And
Yeah.
definitely that's exciting. But in terms of journey, yeah, goodness, there's so much, like even ramping up my social media, building my own website. Well, I didn't build it, but I certainly launched
Yeah.
it and had a lot of input into it.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
all makes it
creating
real.
business cards and promotional materials. It's all the marketing,
Yeah.
all the networking. I have been like reaching
Yeah.
out cold to funeral homes and wedding planners and if you told me I was going to be cold calling people in my career in my 40s, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah, well, that takes a lot of courage to do that. But yeah, you talk about that, building your network and getting out there. It's all a learning experience. And, you know, even though you say you were frustrated and scared, but you're doing it anyway because you know how valuable the opportunity is. And I love that, how you said that, because I think that's an inspiration in itself for people out there, listeners. You know, when you can really see such an opportunity for yourself and your people you're serving, you know, that's a big motivation.
Yeah.
Right?
I think having that sort of end state in mind is really, and it's not even necessarily a state, but like, what am I aiming for? It's, if you were just knocking on doors or sending emails or picking up the phone, relying on that instant feedback. Yeah. You know, I learned right away that you can't rely on that immediate feedback. You have to focus on the kind of the higher vision to get you where you want to go, and to keep that in mind through the hard times, for sure.
Okay, well that ties in with my next question. I mean, you know, how do you stay inspired, and what is your, like, I think, you know, with the end in mind, we have to kind of think, okay, well, what kind of mark do I want to leave? Like, what do you feel is your, like, what do you want? What's your what kind of mark do you want to leave on the world? And how do you stay inspired to keep doing what you're doing? Two-part question.
It's a funny question, that like leaving a mark on the world is like something I don't think about that often, because it seems too daunting in a way. Like my goal,
you're doing it one person at a time.
What's that?
You're doing it one person at a time.
One person at a time. If we can heal a little grief, if we can, I mean, grief doesn't necessarily heal, but if we can unlock it and get it moving, if we can get a couple to really maybe find a little clarity in what they're actually committing to in their vows, if we can send off a beloved coworker into their retirement with a bang, you know, those are the moments that really matter in our lives.
And you touched on it too. Sorry, go ahead.
It's easy to kind of dismiss them or to gloss over them as too much fluff or too much fun, but these are the moments that really bring us together. And
they're the important.
And I think that's something the pandemic has shown us, that is so essential to our human experience.
Yeah, it's put a magnifying glass on what really are the important things. And I mean, you talked about, you know, if we can just find ways, or if you can find ways to help people share the love. Like, I think that's what I'm hearing, is that you do help generate love through all the people expressing themselves, through their speeches, through their celebration of life, tributes, and all sorts of things, things that people write and communicate to the world. That's really a huge deal, because then from there, they're just spreading it too.
Exactly. So, if the whole world was in love with each other, you know, we wouldn't have so many problems.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so just touch on a little bit, I mean, just, you know, your daily, I think a lot of people want to know, like, well, how do you stay inspired? Because it's, you know, I mean, especially in times like this, it's like, oh my gosh, it is quite, how do you say it? It can be daunting on our psyches.
It's demoralizing.
Yeah. How do you, I mean, you love what you do, obviously.
I love what I do, but
but what are some of the ways you stay inspired to keep going?
Goodness. You know, I do yoga a few times a week, and I find that practice is really grounding to me. Even just deep breathing or meditation on the days when I'm not necessarily practicing has done a lot to keeping my mind a little bit more on rhythm, I'll say.
Yeah, grounded.
But it's easy to fall off. And I think
Yeah.
Good music helps. I think the more I can surround myself with excellence, that's how I feel inspired. I'll bring out my photos that you took and I'll flip through them and I'll remember that experience of our photo shoot and how meaningful it was. I'll go out to a nice restaurant where I know the service and the food are going to be amazing, and I'll let that excellence surround me and remind me that this is open to me as well if I choose it. And you know, some days you just want to stay in bed, and fair enough. I've had those days. But if you have too many of them in a row, you're not going to get to where you want to be. So that's when I start trying to surround myself with excellence, whether it's a good meal, it's a good photo, it's a good book, it's a good piece of music. It's
worth getting the best experiences out of life. Yeah,
exactly. Yes.
And I love what you say here. Like, you talk about, you know, it's comforting to you to remember that there's so many amazing people out there doing good work, and I can be one of them if I want to be.
Right.
I love that. That is so empowering. And I think it's really, you know, I've never heard someone say it like that before. Like, and I think that's super powerful. And I'm so happy and proud of you for saying that. You know, from seeing the growth that you've been through, like, since we've started working together and beyond, you know, like, just that you actually put that down on paper, you know.
Right.
That's
well,
huge.
I think, you know, I've had this sort of realization, or like a change in thinking recently, that, you know, excellence is not something that's anointed. Like, you don't get the sword laid on your shoulder and you are now excellent. Like, it's not that someone can bestow on you. It's only something that you can offer out into the world. And you know, some days I don't choose to be excellent.
And that's okay. And
let's be honest.
Say, you know what? I just don't feel like doing anything right now, and I'm not capable of it. But that's where I think a lot of people get stuck, right? And I think, you know, you've figured out some ways to just, you know, be with it, or just accept it and know that it's not.
And I'm just, I would say I'm still learning on the path to acceptance, but my new learning understanding of acceptance is not that we're accepting that it has to be terrible, but we're accepting that it is in this moment terrible, so that we're not fighting it, because it's really that resistance to the terrible. It's that struggle within the terrible that makes it so much worse. I'm, like I said, I'm pretty new to acceptance, but
you're doing an amazing job, and I love everything you're doing. I love all your posts, and I love your work, and I'm excited to work together. So we're gonna.
Thank you, Linda. Yes.
We're gonna make Stepping Into Your Essence like an amazing kind of. I want it to be like a weekend girls' getaway.
I can't wait.
That's what I'm envisioning.
I can't wait to be involved.
So let me see. I mean, how would you, if you were to give advice to people who maybe are wanting to make a difference, you know, like, I think there's a lot of people that have day jobs, which is totally great. They're doing what they love, but maybe they feel unfulfilled. Maybe they want to do something. Like, what kind of advice would you give people who want to make a difference but don't know how, maybe?
I think, you know, getting clear on what your values are. We've already talked about that to a certain extent, but being clear about what you want, what you like, what change do you want to see, is really important. And then my advice is start small, you know.
Yeah.
I was chatting with my husband. Well, it's a story that comes up from time to time, but back in the 90s, he used to bring his cloth bags to the grocery store and the cashiers would laugh at him, you know, and you probably remember those canvas bags from the 90s. They were like very floppy. They had super long handles that didn't fit well in the bagging area. And my mom was the same way, actually, on the other side of the country. My mom was also bringing her cloth bags.
Yeah.
And in the 90s, that was weird. That was considered like a strange thing to do.
Yeah.
But these people all across the country were doing that. And, you know, here we are in the 2020s, and cloth bags are pretty ubiquitous now.
Now you're embarrassed if you forgot it.
If it's not mandatory, we're definitely encouraged to bring our reusable bags. And, you know, that's how change happens. You don't necessarily have to be the inventor. If you're an early adopter, if you're a late adopter,
it doesn't really
adopt.
Matter.
Adapt and adopt, and make those small changes that align with your values, and then make another little small change, and then make another little small change. And that's how the world changes.
Exactly. And I'm reading more and more. A lot of people are talking about goals right now on various blogs and articles. I've just been kind of seeing it in the periphery, and I agree with it, because we all get daunted by, like, I have to change the world, and oh my gosh, like, I have to have this big goal, but it actually is almost works against us, because it's so daunting, and then we get discouraged. But if we start just taking the small steps, like you said, and not overthinking it, and just, you know, it's easier to take the small steps and then see the results from those small steps. Then you can have the confidence, and it just comes more naturally to keep doing it, or, you know, take it up a little bit, you know. So that's really cool. I love that sort of the what do you call it? Collective consciousness, I think, is coming into play here a little bit.
Yes. And I think, I mean, we don't necessarily shine a light on how much of a personal risk it can feel like to make a change. And it does take a lot of courage to make even a small change. So if you aim for too big of a change all at once, it can be terrifying, and might cause you to recoil from that goal rather than incrementally work towards it.
And the other thing, I don't know if this is something you feel, I mean, I don't get the sense you have I know sometimes, you know, I worry about what people are going to think of me if I put myself out there, I say this or do that. Is that a concern of yours, or do you you're okay with that? Yeah. I'm not alone. So how do you overcome that?
Yes. Goodness. You know, a lot of deep breathing, a lot of, but I think back to an article I read. I don't remember if it's an article or an interview with Madeleine Albright. She was the first woman Secretary of State in the US. And you know, I don't know a lot about her, but this particular interview caught my eye, because she was talking about how even at that level of power, you know, she's the Secretary of State of a pretty powerful country. She felt nervous to speak in meetings. And I thought, like, hearing her say that just made me realize, like, this is a universal fear. This is not my fear. This is not your fear. This is something that
we all feel it.
We all feel it.
I'm sure some of the best actors out there get nervous. You know?
I'm sure. And that cannot be our excuse anymore. So I think reminding ourselves of that fear is universal, and there's people all over the world who are doing it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I
It's
know.
a good inspiration. And what she was saying, what Madeleine Albright was saying, is like she would hold back and then someone else would say what she was thinking and they would get all the credit.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I hate that when that happens.
yeah, you're like, oh,
That was
I
my
heard
idea.
that first.
Well, I mean, to be honest, that's why I started this video thing, because I'm like, okay, well, so many people are doing it, and there's a lot of people out there like just creating like I mean, crap. A lot of it's crap content, but they're still doing it. They don't care. They're speaking their minds, and I mean, I think it's great. You know, I shouldn't say it's crap, but you know what I mean. Like, there's just so much stuff out there. People are saying and doing whatever they want, and just everyday people, creating videos on
Sure.
everything under the sun, right?
It's all open to us now.
So now it's like,
You don't
okay,
have to
well,
have a lot of fancy equipment or
no.
a lot of experience doing it. You can just start.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
love that. That's what I remind myself. You know what?
Yeah.
Joe Blow down the street is making videos on, how to, fix a car, like I mean,
Right.
you can literally do anything. And
Yeah.
so I think it's great though, because there's just so much information out there and people expressing themselves. I mean, that's the main thing, right? And there's so much good that's come out of all this whole technology of,
Yeah.
And
there's an audience for everyone. I think
Yeah.
it's easy to think the world is small, but the
Yeah.
world is so big
Yeah.
that you're bound to have people who are interested in what you want to say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, like,
Yeah.
if someone else is already saying it, there's room for both of you. There's room
Yeah.
for all 300 of you, really,
Yeah.
like however many there are.
Well, I
Yeah,
also think about too, like an old friend of mine said, well, if you like it, there's probably somebody else out there that'll like it too. So whether that's a photo or, what I'm wearing or my hair or what I'm talking about
yes,
in these interviews, like there's bound to be at least one person that will like it or will be interested.
yeah. My mom will watch.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that I know we're gonna have a lot more people interested. So,
Yeah.
so let's move on. So 5 years from now, what are your dreams and aspirations for your business and ultimate vision? I guess you talked about that a little bit, about how you
Right.
want to make an impact, spread love and all that.
Yeah.
What do you
Goodness.
envision yourself in 5 years?
This feels like such a new journey for me.
Yeah.
It's really hard to know what the next 5 years are going to look like. I mean, I assume that I would love to say that, I'm known across Canada and into the Pacific Northwest for writing amazing speeches.
Yeah.
But who knows?
It's totally doable. I
In
don't
a
know
couple
anyone
of
who
years,
does what you do.
something else might catch my fancy. Maybe I'll be, who knows, living in the Caribbean, teaching surf lessons or selling yoga mats. I have no idea.
Well, it's, you know what? I mean, the world's your oyster, and I mean, I know you love working with people one on one, and who knows, that could expand. I mean, with the retreat and everything you're doing it's going to take on a life of its own. That's what I found in my business anyway. Like, just when you do follow your path and your passion, things just kind of show up.
Yeah. And
The
I think
universe
my
is
business
tapping
is
in.
new enough that I'm still getting to know my clientele
Yeah.
and what their needs are. So, it may be that there's more to unearth there, and
Yeah.
more services I can offer that I don't even know are needed yet. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it's a very exciting time.
Yeah. Yeah, like literally writing, it could encompass like a million and one things. So
It
let's see
can.
how that
Yes.
grows. So now we'll talk about your photos and working with me. I mean,
Yes.
I love hearing about, like, I mean, you know my process. I mean, we've gotten to know each other a little bit before your photo shoot and the retreat and everything. And now that you've been using your photos for a while, I mean, I just love hearing about, and it's not to boost my ego. It's really just so I can, understand what parts of our experience together, the photographs themselves have impacted you and helped you in your business, so I can, make what I do better. So talk a little bit about, like, okay, you before the photo shoot, like, how did you feel? A little, like, were you a little bit nervous, or how did you feel prior to the photo shoot, and even before
I was a little nervous.
the retreat?
I'd had photos done before, but it was always sort of the, like, sit on the stool.
Am I frozen?
Oh yeah, you are.
Hang on a sec. I just got to pause this.
Sure.
All right. So everything's been great. We've been talking about, and now I want to talk about our experience with the photos, with the personal branding, and everything. Oh, hold on. Okay, sorry. Yeah. I'm kind of like,
we've lost our flow.
Okay, so okay, this is starting over. Well, thanks so much. Everything you've been talking about, I'm so excited for you and your business, and I've loved working with you on, like, every level. And I mean, we started out obviously with your photos, so let's talk about that a little bit. And I'd love to find out, because a lot of what I do is, my process, and we've gotten to know each other and all this other stuff. But I love to talk to my clients after to find out, how their experience was and how the photos might be working for them. And, not just to boost my ego or whatever. Yeah. It's really so that I can do my job better. Because I love human nature. I love people expressing themselves, and I love seeing sort of, what kind of impact, the experience has on them personally, but also in their business and stuff. So let's chat about, like, a little bit before the photo shoot, even before the retreat. How were you feeling before that?
Yeah, I was a little bit nervous, I think, about getting photos done at this level. I mean, I'd done a couple of photo shoots before, but they were sort of like sit down on the stool and we're going to take a bunch of different angles and a smile and but these took a lot more thought in terms of, like, who are you? Where do you want to be photographed? What do you want to be photographed doing? What's going to convey the work that you do and the personality that you have? And it was a much bigger ordeal than I'd ever taken on for a photo shoot before. So
I'm sorry about that.
No, not at all. It was, I mean, it's those baby steps, right, towards the bigger goal. So yeah, I thought your process of discovery, and you've got a really comprehensive questionnaire that got me thinking a lot more clearly about what I might like to my photos to look like and what my brand actually was. There was a lot of clarity there through that process. Yeah. And then meeting with you and talking about it and getting your advice back and forth, that's where the collaboration kind of comes in. It was a really great process.
Oh, good. So you found, did that really help with you in terms of, like, confidence and just clarity around your business and
exactly
kind of knowing the direction you want to go in, kind of thing?
Yes. And understanding that I think how my photos could really enhance what's already there in terms of, I had a website that I love I was already starting to do social media, but
Yeah.
I didn't feel like my photos were a right fit anymore. And so when I got your photos, it really felt like that last piece sort of snapping into place, especially on my website. My designer did such a great job with the website that the photos really just they felt out of place. I'm sure they weren't as bad as I think of them as being, but I was never quite happy with the photos until we were able to go through that process, get something very professional, and it really does, it makes the website sing. Same with social media. I know, it's made it a lot easier to quickly post photos on social media. Of course, I'm a writer, so a lot of my posts are around my thoughts and like typing them out. It's so much nicer to just have a photo that I can add to those posts without having to think too much about it, and knowing that those photos are going to get attention and they're going to help me elevate my voice.
Do you find they help communicate what you're trying to say, or like
definitely yes.
You are, I mean, that's the whole point. My goal is to create images that speak for you when you can't be there in person.
Exactly.
I always try to make sure that that's happening.
Yes.
At every stage.
I think it allows people to see who I am, and also read my message, which I don't have to be encumbered in my message to tell them who I am, because my photo is speaking that for me. So I can really get into what I want to say.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yay.
Yeah.
So what excites you most about your new photos? I look at those as, like we're always growing and becoming. And I think that, like in time, you're going to be like, okay, it's time to express myself in a different way.
Right.
And, I think, well, I mean, you tell me. I mean, I know you were just talking about a little bit, but, what's the most exciting part about it? Like just in how they're working for you right now. Do you feel it's elevated you as a business owner? What are kind of some of the tangible or intangible benefits you think that you have received or experienced as a result?
Well, we covered a lot of range, and that was really important to me when we did the photos, because I'm a smiler. Smiling is kind of my default.
Well, you have a great smile.
It's easy to get a photo of me smiling, and I have a big smile, but it was nice to have a few photos that are a little bit more maybe self-reflective, a little bit more serious. And I find when I'm trying to hold that in, I don't want to end up with a passport photo. Right?
Yeah, exactly. You have to find that happy moment.
But we did get some really great, I don't even want to say serious. I don't think the photos are serious, but they're more thoughtful.
Yeah.
And that's part of me. But, and so, I've been able to create some really meaningful rack cards, which I am distributing now to funeral homes, who will then in turn include those in their customer info packages.
Yeah.
And, they're getting a lot of attention. I think they're very eye-catching. We've got some nice photos of me, one that's very thoughtful and reflective, and one that's a little bit more joyous. Because that's also me.
Well, I mean, we have 1,000,001 facial expressions. And
exactly. Yes. And I actually was looking last night at the bigger library of the bigger library of photos. And it was fun to go back and look at some of the ones that I didn't ultimately select and realize we had all of these and all of those. And I let my imagination run away with me for a little bit.
Well, we have, this is one of my goals. I guess I want to keep my clients, right? And I started with this, I created the VIP refresh program, which is basically a way for you to come back So we don't have to do all the heavy lifting like we did before,
Right.
like all the whole creative questionnaire and all the stuff. We can just kind of, this is my next evolution. So I have this VIP refresh program, which I'll fill you in on later, but
Okay.
it's a way that we can keep working together, and, you get a better deal next time. And then, depending on which package you get, you could potentially get all the photos from your first shoot, which is
Wow.
nice to have because,
Yeah.
well, for posterity's sake, but also, like you said, there's some photos in there that maybe, you would have loved to have gotten, right?
Yeah.
But, they weren't in the cards for that particular time, but like they are photos that could work for future pages on your website or
Right.
social media. Nowadays, as you know, like we have to be posting on a regular basis, and people love seeing us in the photos.
They
But
do.
I get
It
the
does
most
make a
likes
difference to see
when I-
someone's face. And I'm
Yeah.
the same way. Yes.
People want to see you. They want to see what it looks like to work with you. It's like I get the most likes whenever I post, and I always feel funny because I'm kind of a shy person, so that's why I'm the photographer. And but I'm trying to do more of that because I know people want to see me, right?
Yes.
And they
Yes.
want to get to know me, and putting ourselves out, putting our face out there is the best way to do
It's a
that.
visibility. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a way to be seen and heard for sure. And your photos are so captivating.
Thank
I
you.
think they stand out. Yeah.
I love it. I love how, I love, as you know, like just people really shining, accepting who they are, and really expressing themselves, and having that show up in the photos, and just creating this whole, we're all so multifaceted, right? So like a headshot, I always say a headshot shows what you look like. A portrait shows who you are.
Yeah.
And there's not just one portrait. That's why personal branding is called personal branding.
Right.
It's a personal campaign for you
Yeah.
as the business owner, and you're communicating to your, all those amazing clients out there that want you and need you. They just don't realize it yet until they see the photos, they see the website, they read the writing. That's where it all culminates.
It's another piece of that full package that
Yeah, that's what I love about it. So I love working with heart-centered, highly sensitive entrepreneurs and creatives, and because we do have a lot to say, and I love that you said that you can be one of those change makers. You can be one of those amazing people out there that are doing, stuff to change.
we're always working towards it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, okay, last question. What's next for you? Is there any big projects you're working on, or you're, what are your plans for the next little while? Do you have something that you want to share with everyone?
Well, first things first, we need the events industries to be able to open up again in BC.
Yeah,
Weddings and funerals, we're still waiting.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully won't be too much sooner by the looks of things, but I wouldn't presume to know for sure. But yeah, it has been a big hit on both the funeral and the wedding industries. And I know we're starting to see a few closures now, which is really a shame. So yeah, hopefully we'll see a summer of weddings, and you're never hoping for funerals, but in a time of grief, I think coming together is better than not. So I will say, that's what I hope, that we are able to gather and grieve in the ways that we need to, even though it's not necessarily something we're hoping for. On the other side of things, I've been working on an independent video game for a few years.
Very cool.
It's been sort of a little bit of a fun project with friends, and I think we're going to have something to show a little later this year. So that's going to be very exciting. I've been doing the character development of one of the, I would call this character a guide that kind of takes you through different parts of the game. So
yeah.
Conveys a lot of technical information, actually. So that's been its own little challenge of weaving in details of technical information with this character and their voice and
Yeah.
a little humor. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to being able to present that to the world this year too.
Sounds great. And yeah, we're going to talk because I really want to bring you into the
Yes.
fold for the Stepping Into Your Essence retreat.
Perfect.
And,
Yes. And if
helping
you
my
have
clients. Yeah, for their website copy, there's all sorts of I think ideas that we can collaborate on. So.
Yes, portraits and bios go together like a
Big
horse and
time.
carriage.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Shannon. And what's your website again?
Yeah, I'm at centrepiecewriting.com.
Yeah.
Centrepiece is spelled the Canadian way, R-E, instead of E-R. But yeah, and you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Centrepiece Writing as well.
Awesome. Well, that was amazing. I think we covered a lot of really interesting and inspiring information for everybody listening. And I'm excited to see what you do in the coming, days, months, years.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting year, I think. I think 2022 feels like we're starting to open up a little bit. There's a little more hope post-pandemic or amid the pandemic. It feels like we're coming to a place where maybe there'll be a little bit more openness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, soon.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Well, wonderful to speak with you, Linda. And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thanks for joining.
I'm honored to be considered an eloquent entrepreneur.
Well, we're all change makers. That's why I say everyday change makers.
Yeah.
We all, it doesn't matter if it's one thing or several small things or a big thing, it all counts. So,
yeah.
We all ultimately just want to, make a difference, right? We don't want to
We've had so many amazing guests. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll chat with you soon.
Sounds
Have an awesome
good.
day.
All right. You too. Thanks, Linda.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Eloquent Entrepreneur, Conversations with Everyday Changemakers, and that you're feeling supercharged and inspired to make your positive impact in the world. Because one thing I know for sure is that together we can create a lasting legacy and ignite others to do the same. To learn more about The Eloquent Entrepreneur and more, visit my website at lindamackie.ca. Bye for now.